If you have bought an item that you're supposed to have charged VAT on, or you're supposed to have been charged VAT, you're supposed to have suffered VAT on, if you have not charged VAT on that expense, if you have not been charged VAT on that expense, you cannot get deduction for that expense when you are computing your income tax computation. Hi everyone. I'm sure you still remember our story on VAT. Sometimes last year, we provided clarification. We spent a bit of time on VAT, input VAT, output VAT, what it means, how it is treated, and all of that. There's a big story on VAT based on this new provision. And it's important for us to camp around it because of what this means for our businesses and the way we run our transactions. So, what has happened is there's a section in the law that has now tied the deductibility of expenses to VAT applicability or the performance of the obligation on VAT on those expenses, including import duty. What does this mean? Let me break it down. Oladejo Adeyemi is my name, and this is Insight with Oladejo. So prior to now, you could have your expenses incurred. Remember that tax is paid on profit, and to arrive at your profit, you will take your expenses or your costs, you deduct them from your revenue or your turnover, whatever, or your income, whatever you like to call it. And then the resultant number is what your profit is, quote unquote. So all of those expenses, based on what the tax law, as stipulated, some of them will be deductible, some of them will not, based on what the law says. But there was never a time when the deductibility of an expense was hinged on your performance of VAT obligation on that particular expense. So this is what it means. If you have bought an item, say an item X, that you're supposed to have charged VAT on, or you're supposed to have been charged VAT, you're supposed to have suffered VAT on. What the law is saying now is if you have not charged VAT on that expense, if you have not been charged VAT on that expense, you cannot get deduction for that expense when you are computing your income tax computation. And that is really, really, really a game changer, because that means beyond you looking out for what would pass the deductibility test as an expense for income tax purposes, you also have to bother on what has happened to the VAT or the import duty on that expense. How is this going to impact us? It's going to impact businesses in no small measure, because ERPs are now supposed to be configured in a way that VAT recognition on expenses must be checked so that the company will not miss out on its opportunity to be able to claim deduction for those expenses. There are a couple of other countries, this leaf must have been borrowed from a couple of other countries, but it is something that we are completely not used to within our taxing regime. But it is the right thing to do to call it out for you so that you can start paying attention, to it. And remember that this tax law has started from this very month, that we are in, this very year that we are in. And so it is important for you to pay attention to these things. So what needs to change? After you've gotten your invoice, you need to now check if VAT applies. You already know that there are certain products that VAT does not apply on, or VAT is rated at 0%. There are some items that are zero-rated items. We've mentioned some of them again in the past. You can feel free to go to some of my videos, on my YouTube channel to be able to catch up on some of those old videos or those items that we've mentioned that are VAT exempt or that are zero rated. But the big story here is expense deduction is now hinged on VAT, your performance of your VAT obligation. failure which you may not be able to claim deduction for that expense in your income tax computation analysis. Until I come your way again, my name still remains Oladejo, and this is Insight with Oladejo. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, keep liking, keep engaging with the platform. It is only by doing this that we can continue to educate ourselves and educate the rest of the citizens, so that we have a community of people that are well informed when it comes to what their taxing and regulatory obligations are with respect to our dear nation, Nigeria. Bye for now.